Welcome into another episode of Discard for Magic. I'm your host, Aaron.
I'm the other host, James or Jackson.
Let's move on to the Grokes. The overpowered deck that used to be has a weak card? What? No way. Yeah, the Poison Potion. We talked a little bit about this when we had Magnifico on recently for the Grokes faction overview, but the Poison Potion is not always great. And sometimes downright awful.
I think the main issue with the Poison Potion is it takes a magic and 5 boosts, or up to 5 boosts, and there's all the other potions you could be spending those boosts on. It's just like Swift and Strong are great. Wither is slightly less useful, but it also costs a magic. So then it's just like, do I really want to spend my boosts on this Poison Potion? And the answer is usually no. But I will say that I think some of the times it is useful is if you think you want to push damage on the summoner and you think you can get it there because that summoner likes to move to use their ability. If you have something like the Savannah Elves or the Polar Dwarves or the Forged, something where you think that summoner is going to move every turn, I think Poison Potion can be useful because you're going to get that damage where it counts. Again, the Grokes aren't necessarily an assassination deck, so maybe that's not as useful, but it still seems like that's a potential use for it.
Definitely agree with that. Just getting damage on the summoner is really good, right? If you had an event that was play and take 1 damage on the opposing summoner, like that would have some play. This obviously costs more, and so I get that. But there are times like if their summoner is in danger and Poison Potion's up, they have to move to take damage, or they're not going to move and they want to and stay in a bad spot. Like that's forcing a tough choice on them, and that's good. I mean, this definitely is situational, but I try and use it, and I think it's fun and like makes their things weaker, which means that your units stay out longer, which means that you get more magic, which kind of fuels you a little bit. And so I think it's good, even if it's not getting a ton of damage on key units, but making things weaker means your units are able to kill them more easily too.
Yeah, and I think where it's best is later in the game when you can almost guarantee that they don't have a workaround for it. I used it in a league matchup against Shibata, actually the final games of the last league season, when it was Isle versus the Deepwood Grokes. And late in the game as the Grokes, I didn't kill a dancer that Shibata had, and I had been waiting on a couple potions, and I wasn't sure which ones I wanted to play yet, but I played the Poison Potion, and Shibata didn't have a whole lot of units left or a lot of magic, and that forced the Dancer and a Crab Knight that was in the back with just 1 health to essentially never really move again for the rest of the game because Shibata had to take that damage other places, mostly on Roko. So a lot of that damage, I think 3 of the 5 went straight to the summoner, and one of the units he ended up, I think, just killing because he would just want to get rid of the Poison Potion. So it gained me a magic back by the killing of the units, got me like 3 damage on the summoner, and like another damage on another unit, all in the end game, which was crucial to me winning that game.
That's awesome. That's kind of like the whole reason we have this specific podcast. If you just immediately said Poison Potion bad, discarded it, you would never have had that really good crucial turn and that interesting use that forces them to do something they don't want to do. I think that's kind of the whole point we're doing this, is to find those use cases, even if they're rare.
Yeah, and with all these cards that we're going to go through, with the exception of maybe one, which we'll get to later, these are still very useful cards. Even the worst cards we're talking about, like, they have useful times. Like, these are cards that in every aspect of the game, they're not going to be useful, but in certain instances, they can be very useful and pretty good cards. But because of those times not always happening, they're some of the worst cards in the game.
Yeah.
There are a couple scenarios in which playing Poison Potion is downright bad, though. I highlighted this in the Grokes podcast also, but playing them against like Shadow Elves, you are actively helping your opponent. Do not play the Poison Potion against Shadow Elves. Even in the end game, probably. Like, you might get a couple damage on Sloondar in the end game. Sloondar can just move another unit and ping it back. It's almost an endless cycle of just gaining boosts and just returning the units for just moving them. Not helpful to play poison in that one. There's a couple other matchups where factions can kind of work around it. It's not as detrimental. Fungal Dwarves and Crimson Order and some of those recursion factions, if they're going to get the units back and they can work around it, it's not going to be as useful. But in like the end game still in those matchups, it still could have significant impact. If you're down to your last final cards as Fungal Dwarves and Poison Potion comes out and you have to be moving Cool Deck to get that diamond where you want it to be to continue to have boost, that could end the game essentially.
And I would say another use of it is just really movement heavy decks. Storm Goblins can't move their little guys, right? They're Volt Swappers, and things that do move really well, like less useful, like the Tireless guys or the Kite Riders. And birds is you really want to be moving all over the place. Like now you're not as beefy and you are less incentivized to do that. Like I think that's just shutting down movement also gives you an advantage.
Yeah, I think Poison Potion got a bit of a bad rep. And part of it is, as Jexity mentioned, like the other potions do have more of a generalized usability. I'm in a game right now as Croaks, my babies, though technically they're more Snogs mutant babies, where I drew most of my other potions early on, but now I've built up a huge like boost supply, and it's really like 2 Poison Potions and a Swift Potion that's left. I'm going to use some of it on Swift Potion, but I've got over 10 boost, like at least 1 Poison Potion is going to drop. It does have, I feel, more usability than people give it credit, and part of it I think has to do with when it launched, Hecatea's Arcane Brew ability really incentivized the use of boost in other manners. And so like Swift and Potion were the go-to because you were shifting most of your boost onto your warriors. Your 4 warriors pretty much always got boost in every game, so your boost economy was being redirected elsewhere, whereas now you rarely ever see warriors get boosted, and certainly not even less frequently from Arcane Brew. So now it's freed it up a bit more, and I think a lot more situations and scenarios for Poison have arrived. You do have, as mentioned, some of the areas where you don't want to play it, like Shadow Elves, or even against the Forge, if they manage to get the coolant upgrade, it's a little less useful because then they can just kind of burn it off at no detriment to themselves. It is a slow burn as well. I will throw it out against Cave Goblins pretty much most matches because it locks down helps whittle down all the other stuff in a deck that doesn't have multiple attacks otherwise. Yeah, Storm Goblins another one as Beans mentioned, and just being able to get 5 damage even though your opponent is controlling where it goes, if they have no way to heal it up, it's still 5 damage that you would have had to otherwise like take a chance with your dice. So Strong Potion gives you 5 dice that can miss. Poison Potion is always damage. You just don't get to determine where it goes.
Yeah, Cave Goblins is a good one to highlight. That is maybe one of the best factions to use it against. Because locking down those slingers, that's a big part of what they do. And they don't have a whole lot to get around it. I mean, they have a lot of movement, but...
I'll even recur Poison against Cave Goblins. Like, screw you, Sneaks.
All right, shall we get to the last card of the events then?
Send it away.
The card here we have is Law of Loyalty, which we'll let Bean talk about it. Probably the most versed High Elves player we got right now.
It's true. This is definitely the card I play the least in the deck. But I do think, I mean, it definitely has its uses. I'd say similar to Rebuke, where you're trying to finish off the summoner, and that's when you want to do it. I think of it almost like you're either being really aggressive and you want to play Law of Loyalty, or you're being really defensive and you want to play Law of Loyalty. And so, like, if you're exposing Valeria, then you do not necessarily want to play it, obviously. But if you're really getting up in there and think you can end it, go for it. If you are hanging all the way back and you've just got all your shrimpy little range units, that's a great time to use it too. Yeah, I think the fact that it's cheap, unlike a lot of these other ones we've been talking about, and it just is relatively useful and lasts for 2 turns, I think is good. So I think it's situational, obviously, but you can definitely find uses for it if you're looking for them.
The thing you really want to be careful with Law of Loyalty is, can my opponent get more benefit out of this than I can?
Yeah.
Because if you're not like set up well, or you don't like pair it well with like Law of Liberty or something, then sometimes your opponent's going to get more use out of it than you are. Or if your like opponent is in a position and has a faction in which they can reach your summoner, and you have Law of Loyalty out and you don't have like Sanctity out to protect yourself, that can be a detriment to you also, because if they can get next to you, they can roll some extra dice on you, and also be in like the aura of war and have that law of strength on them also, and then they're rolling even more die, and it can get rough real fast if you don't prepare for that. But if you can get more out of it, it can definitely be very useful. A lot of times I see people use it if they're, like being said, being a little more passive, very defensive, and they just want to like ping some people with a priest or a piece and get some extra dice on those attacks, and the rebuttal is not really there, or like the opponent's summoner is deep in the back row with whether it's Kuldak or Daymar or whoever, Maldaria, and they're not in a position where they can gain that benefit. That's when you want to use it and get the most out of it. Extra dice is nothing to scoff at.
It's really that like managing rebuttal aspect I think pushes it over the edge for me. When I was first picking up the deck, all the laws, I was just kind of like, I probably am not going to even play any of these because you don't want to be giving your opponent any of the advantages that you get, other than Sanctity, because Sanctity is pretty easy to work around. As I learned the deck more, I thought Law of Liberty was going to be the one that I was like, ooh, this is really rare that I play it. But I found more and more as I played High Elves that it wasn't as difficult to set up turns where you got most of the advantage from Law of Liberty. The opponent, when they had to like take their turn, would still have to move their units into position to attack, so they weren't getting the versatile favor bonus. Largely because I always have to like oblige and dictate and what have you. But Law of Loyalty, I think your opponent has a much easier time. Either they have to throw something on Valeria or just get something, a ranged unit near their summoner. And if you're going aggressive, it's harder to wrangle to keep yourself from getting hit by it. As Beans mentioned, like I mostly get it out if I'm trying to just finish off the summoner or a very key piece like a large champion. Otherwise, I'm not going to use this to help clear the board because it will be easier for them to also retaliate with.
It doesn't really combo well with Titus, so I don't play it a ton, I will say.
Yeah, that's true too.
There should be a clause on it that it works for common units and Titus.
Yeah, that would be great.
10 out of 10. It'd be the best card in the deck then.
Should we move on to the champs?
Yeah, move on to the champs.
All right. So here's Aaron's favorite card to hate, the Eater.
This card.
The funny thing about the Eater is that it was introduced with just the Breakers and the Eater, which is probably the worst matchup for the Eater because you can mind control it and just let it go away.
Yeah.
It's completely unplayable there, but in general it's unplayable because if it attacks and whiffs on the attack, which can happen, you can get a 2 out of 5 and then it just walks away. And if not, you can like, well, I can leave something next to it just in case, and then you're just eating your own units, which is not what you wanted to be doing. So it often disappoints, like a lot. Or people can just pull back and let them die, like force you to eat your own units.
Oh, the thing that gets me is its 6 cost. Like, even in those rare circumstances where, like, you're playing against, I don't know, fungal doors or something where you want to leverage that big attack and everything, and then I'm like, oh, I'll play the Eater, and I try to build up and I prepare for it. And then invariably, I save up 5 matches because I think, okay, that's what its price point is. And then I draw, it's like, why is this 6? Why is this 6?
You did bring up one of the matchups where I think it is useful. I think there's a number of conditions that need to be met for the Eater to be good. One of those is like the enemy faction is largely melee and tough to kill, but they also are going to be feeding you magic, not very mobile, right? So that narrows it down a lot because it basically means to me that it's like fungal dwarves, Crimson Order, the Fallen Kingdom. Basically, like your infect factions are going to be creating extra bodies for you to eat. The big attack will be useful against like a 3 or 4 life, undead carrier, undead warrior, that kind of thing. And you can swing for the fences against like fungal beasts and royal warriors. Try to get those 5 out of 5s. And when you hit them, it'll feel good. Or like maybe use a pile-on to get 6 dice on it and hope for a 5 out of 6 on some of those big beefy commons. Because otherwise you have trouble taking out beefy commons in 1 hit or like in even 2 hits with your little cave goblins.
The idea of it was really good because it does help in cave goblins' worst matchups. Like a lot of those things you were just talking about are really tough for cave goblins, like Crimson Order, like fungal dwarves. And a big guy who can munch on their big guys a lot is really, really good in concept. And I think when we've seen it in tournaments where they buff it with extra health, it works. Like I've used it in the tournaments, and I had a game. They were Mountain Vargath, and I played him, and they didn't let me eat any of their units, which was good playing by them. But what that means is they're playing it with half the board. They're playing with a lot less threat to me because of that, and I can keep creeping towards. And yeah, I'm eating my own things, but at that point, that's fine because I'm coming after you, and I don't think you have the capability to take down what was whatever 11 health it was in the tournament. And so I think like the idea of the Eater is really good. The execution of it can be really tough because there are some factions that can just kill it, even if you bring it out and stuff. Or you can, like Breakers we talked about, even if they don't mind capture it or mind control it, you can just play keep away from it also. And so that is a really tough one. The Breaker's really, really tough. But there are definitely units and matchups that fear the Eater, fear being dinner.
I'm related to anything. I think the only time I've had the Eater played against me was playing Jexig. He played it a couple of times against me. I think it's literally the only time I faced the Eater.
I've played too many games to remember, but yeah, maybe that's why maybe I'm an Eater apologist. But I think it's also in like the few matchups where you're going to be discarding stuff is again those infect matchups where you're like, oh, I don't think I need a Clinger now, or I don't think the Slinger is going to be doing that much good, or something where you might discard one or two more units than you would normally, and then you're like, oh well, I guess I'll summon the Eater and hope it works. I have had it be useful against like Crimson Order a couple times, like I said. Sometimes even if you're not attacking a unit, like if you bring a Clinger along as a meal, destroy a gate. You can like pile on a gate with the Eater, get a lot of dice on it, and then just eat that Clinger that you brought along for the ride.
Yeah, that's what I did in that Vargath game, and I do want to say I did end up winning that game. The Eater was a big part of that because they had to play less efficiently, because they were playing around it so much. They weren't playing around my other stuff, or they weren't playing to the best of what they would do.
If you have the magic, you should summon the Eater, because there's no other way to use magic in that deck for the most part.
But you'll never have the magic.
Well, I mean, sometimes I have the magic as Cave
yeah.
Goblins, but I rarely see it be effective even when I have the magic. I play a lot of those factions that you guys are talking about, and I have never once felt like the Eater did a good amount of work when I'm playing Fungal Dwarves or Crimson Order or Fallen Kingdom. I have not had one game in all my games with all those factions where I thought the Eater was actually effective. Yeah, I mean, I haven't had any. I haven't had a single game. Is it better than not using the Eater in those matchups? Yeah, because the Cave Goblins really struggle in a lot of those matchups. Fallen Kingdom maybe a little less than the other two, but so the Eater helps a little bit. But the fact that the Eater, if you don't keep it alive with your own units, and they just like walk away from it, and those factions are a little less mobile, but they still have ways around the Eater. Like if you're playing Fallen Kingdom, you purge all your own units, whether to kill the Eater or kill other things by the Eater, and then there's no units by the Eater, and then the Eater dies. Or if you're the Fungal Dwarves and you just stim shroom away or just like walk away, you leave it with the one unit and just let it have its one snack in the corner, and then once it has its one snack, there's no units for like 3 or 4 spaces. It's tough. It's really tough to make the Eater super effective. But yeah, those are the best scenarios. You have the magic, and you're playing against one of those factions, and that is when it is the most effective. But it's still not that
very
effective.
good.
This might be the one card that I would say in all of Summoner Wars
Don't play.
really doesn't have a whole lot of use.
Just don't play.
What about the
don't know.
next one? I feel like Meaty Mumway hits the board less for me than the Eater,
But when I've seen Mini Mumway hit the board, it's been more effective.
but it's like less than 1% of games.
Yeah. Well, again, Midi Mumway doesn't hit the board, but those 3 Shibata games that I've seen Midi Mumway hit the board, it actually did something. I actually had a Midi Mumway game that I had a while back where it hit the board and died the next turn at full boost.
What?
Yeah, and I still won that game very handily.
Who are you playing against?
Cloaks. They out of shadows it like right off the gate. They used a lot of stuff to kill it, but I was a bit ahead in econ anyway, noticing why I'm summoning Midi Mumway. Why would I be doing that if I didn't have a ton more cards? Mini Mumway died instantly, and then I cleaned up the rest of their units. And I don't remember if that was their second Out of Shadows or if it was their first, but they didn't have as much to do after that.
Yeah, I mean, famously, I think Sip played him in like a grand final of a Plaid Hat tournament.
Mini Mumways won a tournament. You can't say that about it. It actually did work. It was summoned late in the game. It was against Fallen Kingdom, and Fallen Kingdom couldn't infect it because it had too much health.
Yeah, and instances like that, I think, can be really good. It's got like the trample still right, and
But you're right. I've seen it less than the Eater, but I think you're right, Aaron. Like when it comes down, it's not as bad as the Eater, but yeah.
I feel like Eater is more needed in the Cave Goblins deck.
Yeah.
And so when it comes out, you rely on it more, whereas Mini Mumway is
And then
kind
you
of...
get disappointed.
Yeah, Eater's just
Yeah.
disappointment.
Right, so Mini Mumway doesn't have that... I mean, it does have disappointment, but it's not something you were relying on, and so...
No, I accidentally discarded my other 2 champs. I guess I'll summon Mini Mumway now.
Because it is this, like, not necessarily super synergistic part of its deck, then it doesn't. I feel like Eater is a better card, but it's worse at the role that it fills, whereas Mini Mumway is, like, fine at the role that it fills, but is a worse card in my mind.
yeah, and the reason you see the Eater more is because, like I was saying, the Cave Goblins have the magic. Like, they don't have anything else to spend magic on. So, like, you're going to see the Eater more, whereas the Savannah Elves have a ton of really good cards. They don't need to spend the magic on Mini Mumway, and most of the times should not, probably.
I've never had 8 magic as Savannah Elves, I don't think. Like, that's a ton for an
It's
expensive...
even hard to get to 5 to summon their other champions because all their
Yeah, can you
counters
guys
cost
believe
2.
that I had 8 magic as Savannah Elves?
Discard
Yeah.
cards.
How is that game going? I don't remember. The times when Mini Mumway is really useful is taking care of like carriers with Fallen Kingdom and doing stuff of that aspect, or if you have them pinned, and Shibata has used it to pin people before, and then it's hard to deal with if it's you can only attack from like one side, and it's got like it's rolling 6 dice back at you melee, and so you can use it to knock down gates and all sorts of fun things. And it's got trample, so they can't just stick a common in front of it and it can't get through. Anything else you guys want to say about Mini Mumway?
I think we've said more than enough.
Yeah, honestly, it's my least favorite.
I was about ready with Mini Mumway coming like cost too much next. Okay, no.
Yeah.
Ended it in.
That's it. All we talk about Mini Mumway is just James saying, cost too much, next.
Bad champs are funny because you could just literally have never ever played them in a game. And like a Mini Mumway I've never played in a game.
Yeah.
I think the worst cards of the game are champs. Like, if you were to rank all the cards, I think the bottom ones are champs.
We could have made an episode just on 15 champs instead of talking
Yeah.
about other stuff. That's why we divided it up so we could talk about different aspects of the game.
And they're allowed to be worse because there's only one in the deck. Like, it's not going to hurt the actual deck as much as a common or an event, too.
Unless you're Eater.
I think there are 2 ways they could go to fixing the Eater. One way is just give him more health or another ability, make it more powerful, make it worth that 6 magic. But I think it'd also be funny if they could find something with the exact same ability and a 0 cost stat line that works. Play the Eater at like a 3/5 for 0? Yeah, probably.
Here's my fix for the Eater, and it would need to change its abilities. You keep a similar ability, but instead of losing it, you can change it to a 0 cost if you want more synergy, but instead of losing it, you can spend a magic. You can keep it around for a magic like Smeg, give it Smeg's ability, but it also is just a giant thing that can hit things pretty hard, and Smeg is not.
It's frustrating to me when I have used it that it can't, like, killing a gate doesn't do anything for the Eater ability. Like, it should be allowed to kill gates. That's a big, beefy target that I want to use this 5.
Should be able to eat that gate.
Yeah.
It doesn't eat rock.
It's wood.
There was a champion in first edition that liked to eat gates, or walls as they called it. It was
The
it was for the
Stone
deep
Troll,
dwarves. Anyway, we're getting far afield now.
Yeah,
All
we're
right,
going back to Eater.
A loot ball!
a loop ball.
Pellet ball.
It's the new sport, Rocking Summoner Wars. A loot ball.
Yep. So, Fallen Kingdom just had a couple other cards changed. Gul'das, who could have maybe made this list beforehand, and Blood Summon, Raytalis, and Starting Setup, and a fair amount. But one of the cards that didn't change, and that has always been pretty lackluster, is a Loot Ball. It's got 6 attack, 6 health. It costs 6, which is part of why it's a little lackluster. Colby really liked that 666 stat line, so here we are.
Colby also really likes 888, so.
Well, I think that was Nick, actually. Nick liked 888.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then it can only be summoned by destroying a unit. So not only is it expensive to begin with, but you have to destroy a unit to summon it. So if you can't destroy a unit, you can't summon it. Like I remember way back a while ago, I played Physic in a game, and he had enough magic, but he didn't end up having a unit because I killed his unit the turn before, and it was the end game. So that was it. But if he had Gul'das or Dragos, he might have had a chance to win that game. But because it was a loot ball, couldn't do anything with it, and the loot ball just stayed in his hand the rest of the game.
I will say, in defense of Elite Ball, I think it was Stark Thalmy, one of the Fallen Kingdom players who kind of came in the second wave where they, right before they got nerfed and everybody fled them again. He came in and he was saying like he played 2 or 3 champs every game, and I think it was El Canelo was just like, oh, even Elite Ball? He's like, yeah, and I watched some of his replays, and he did. I don't know how he generates so much magic. He would drop Elite Ball, and when that thing hits the board, if you're able to protect it fairly well, which, jumping to Undead Archers, if it gets a kill, it can get a blocker, and the 6 strength is really good.
Yeah.
One time, Fuzzy Marmot styled on me with a loot ball by having an undead warrior destroy my gate, and then a loot ball killed their own undead warrior to have Undead Archer jump to that space and then kill me.
I saw that. That's good. I saw that.
So you can kill your own units to get Undead Archers into place.
6 strength is pretty good odds for destroying a gate on its own.
It was just what they had to do in that
Oh,
situation.
yeah.
Loot Ball, Eater, and MIDI, I think were just early in the game. They didn't understand exactly the economy of this game, and so they made them slightly more expensive than they should in all of these guys' cases. And if they were all just 1 magic cheaper, I think they would be much more okay units. MIDI maybe means more than that, but a loot ball, it's just, there are definitely times it could be useful. You don't have the magic a lot of the time.
Well, what's the excuse for Sekhmet then?
Sekhmet's good.
Sekhmet's good!
You just have to discard it in order, which people never want to do.
Sekhmet does give a unique ability to the faction. Extra reach, and also you can even let it not kill something and then transfuse off of that damage.
We're not talking about Sekhmet.
We should be talking about Sekhmet.
Get his name out of your mouth.
Just want to touch on a little bit more with the loot ball. The real aspect that makes it a good card is, like we talked about a second ago, is the attack value to clear some big targets, whether it's a gate or high health units, and the aspect that it can surprise your opponent. And the surprise can be a real benefit if they don't see it coming. The problem is you got to get up to that 6 magic, like being said, and it is fairly obvious normally to see coming where they can get that.
Yeah.
Besides that, it's fine.
Well, as the resident FK player, would you ever play Elite Ball? Have you ever played Elite Ball?
Yeah, I play a loot ball on rare occasion. Played a loot ball actually fairly recently when Blood Summon was slightly different and I got a discount on a loot ball. So when I got it for 4 magic and 2 damage on a unit, I was playing a loot ball, but I did not play it much before then. Some rare scenarios, once on a freeze to win the game, a couple different scenarios, but for the most part, I find that too many factions can easily take out 6 health in 1 turn.
You basically get 1 attack with it before it's gone.
Yeah, and if you get 1 attack and you spent 6 magic on the unit, that's terrible. So,
yeah,
that's the problem, is not enough health or sustainability in my mind for the cost. If the faction has the ability to take it out in 1 turn, you probably should summon something else, probably. Unless you can win the game. Then summon a loot ball. Moving on to Talia.
One of the rare non-master set champs. That is underwhelming.
She's terrible. Moving on.
I think this goes back to the poison potion discussion where you have a deck that just has so many good cards, there's just not time for her. Yeah. And also they're damaging their own gates more because her ability requires an enemy's gate to be damaged and then if you move her adjacent to it, put one of your commons next to that gate. So it has a lot of setup, and often you just don't have that setup.
Yeah. This is my like white whale because I've tried to get her to work a couple different ways. I've tried against ice golems you'd think would be really good for this, right? Or factions that have extra gates and stuff. And it's just really hard because you need that magic, but you also need to have their gate damaged, and you also need to have their gate be within range of your summoning spot that she can then walk and have a unit also to like there's just a lot is required to get her to work. That being said, theory crafting, I think it could really be good and cool, but I haven't really been able to do it. I've tried.
As the resident Natalia hater, no, I wrote a long dissertation on why she's hot garbage. Some people argued with me. Good for them. They're wrong, but good for them. It's just as you said, there's way too many hoops to jump through, and she doesn't even do anything unique to the deck. Like, the deck has so many ways to hit enemy that's hiding that you don't need Talia. You don't need to jump through the hoops to get it. Like, if you're going after the summoner, Samara does it if you're looking at champions, but you're also playing Shadow Elves. Why are you even looking at champions? Like, you can Shadow Pulse for damage gauge, you can shoot through things with the Rangers. Like, it's so much work for Talia. You need the stars to align and for everything to line up, and it's just, you could probably just hit them somewhere, some other way at the end of the day.
I think there are factions that it's good against. I don't play enough Shadow Elves to have experience with those matchups, but I do think there's going to be
times. Could
be
good against like the Groaks or something.
Groak.
Vexer won a game, I think, against Magnifico in the Tournament of Champions the year before.
Yeah, that was pulled out as an example, and he would have won through inactivity damage if he didn't use Talia.
I guess. I've seen Talia win games. It's just so rare. Yeah. Because the amount of times that you can't use a different tool in their deck to win that game, or like the amount of times that the right situation is getting set up. I wonder if it was switched to any damaged gate, if you would use her just for like sometimes repositioning.
Yeah.
Just to reposition all game of getting your cards where you want them to be or getting cards to different parts of the battlefield. Probably not a ton, but maybe it would be more use if it was just any damaged gate.
Could also just see if you are getting aggroed that this would be good. Like if you're playing Shimmer Sea Fae or you're playing Obsidian Dwarves or something like that, this could be a much easier to use ability. But also in that case, maybe you don't have that much magic.
I think she could work in a different deck. Like if she was in Fae, just as she is now, she'd be way playable than somebody else that's coming up with less spoilers. One of the biggest thing is this deck just does not need her.
With Coordinate in Wayfarer, she'd probably be great.
Yeah.
She's just in the wrong deck.
And she's light symbols, so even in deck building, yeah, she could work in Fae in deck building.
I know this podcast is used for bad cards. This is going to be my don't bother using it.
Good stats for a decent cost.
Yeah, good stats for a decent cost. So there is situations maybe in the end of the game where if you need to use your magic on something. But the other aspect of that is with Shadow Elves.
You always have something to spell magic on.
Yeah.
You can get Shadow Knights, Seekers, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not playing any of their champions, but if I am, it's not going to be Talia.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like you could almost make the argument for the other champions being pretty bad too. Like Samara, I still see only probably 10 to 20% of the game.
Samara has beat me way too many games for me to call her bad. I thought about that too. I was like, Samara's not that good. And then I was like, I've lost 100 games as Fungal Dwarves to Samara. So.
Yeah, I really like Samara. I play her a lot.
I had a game where I went super aggro and brought her out. In general, the quote-unquote right way to play Shadow Elves is not summoning champions at all. Like Lucian. Lucian is good enough to get play in deck building. Very rarely see it in an actual Shadow Elves game.
I don't know. I feel like people play Lucian in real games and then never, ever use ability. It's just like, look how many boosts I have. And
I've seen those games too.
Bean, I was waiting in our league game to use the ability, okay? It didn't come up. It might have at some point. It works against Spectral Conclave. I was just waiting.
Exactly.
Let's move on to the last card. Corrales Undertow? Is that his name?
Yeah, Undertow.
Oh, yeah. The buff boy with the tiny hands.
Coolest name for a bad card.
Should have been a deep water.
I think he's fun. He's definitely fun. I don't know if he's good, but I know he's not the best, but...
Can he work on your own gate, or is it only enemy cards?
Enemy cards.
Enemy cards.
Oh, okay. I had a game recently where I was using my opponent's gates as cover, and they just used high tide. They just pushed their gate out of the way and then killed me. I was like, I was using that gate for cover.
Hey, I was using that.
So I was thinking maybe some situation like that, where someone's using gate as a cover for their summoner, and you hit the gate, push it forward, but don't put Corrales forward, and then have something else shoot from the side.
I've done that before actually with Corrales, which is push something, don't move Corrales and hit from the side is cool. Just the fact that he can push gates, I think is cool. Like, is it the best thing in the world? No, but if you push their 10 health gate all the way to the back row, they're gonna have a tough time, right? Like that takes away one of their summoning spots, that takes away their hiding spot. Like that's really tough. And that can happen sometimes with him.
I propose a trade. You put Corliss in the Guild Dwarves, and you take Grundor and change that ability to help the Shimmer Sea Fae. And then they can search their deck for something, and then Corliss can punch people with greater engage and just deal lots of damage.
Yeah. That'd be cool. With a lot of Shimmer Sea Fae, I wonder how, I think they're a lower tier deck. I just wonder how good they would be if him and High Tide allowed you to force in any direction and not just all in one direction for High Tide, but not just straight back, because I feel like that really, really limits both of their uses.
Yeah.
I think it'd be cool.
Just a forceful attack, you're saying?
Well, forceful attack, yeah, but then he gets to move too, which I think is cool. And then High Tide being everything shifts to the left or shifts to the right is just something I've dreamed of.
The one thing that's interesting, I know that we weren't going to talk about this, but this is the last card I'm going to say. If you have cards that are bad, you like a deck but don't like some of the cards, there's this format out there that exists where you can build the deck the way you want.
What's that format, James?
Tell me more!
It's called deck building.
What?
Fun. I've actually had fun recently with a Shimmer Sea Fae build in deck building. I took Guild Defenders, because they're light, and gave them Waveborn Relic, which is water.
Oh.
From the Isle of Ekid. So then you're getting a guy rolling with 3 dice, and when he hits it, he pushes him away and does 2 extra damage, and it even works against summoners. Is this like the best deck I've ever seen in deck building? Probably not, but that little combo brings me joy.
Exactly.
And that's all you need.
And also they can play Renewed Hope. Like you can run up, play Renewed Hope or Baldar's Gate and do some fun stuff. Like you can play Baldar's Gate and then play a Smasher off of it, swing for 4 dice with an extra attack. I think deck building's in an interesting spot right now. It's always fun to pick up when there's a new season because no one really knows what's good yet, especially after Blood Summon got nerfed a bit. A more balanced and interesting spot, such as it is. I think it's worth giving a shot if you haven't yet.
Unrelated question, but semi-related. How's Filth now with the Blood Summon nerf?
The people are still playing them. They just have good things going on in terms of their mutations and whatnot.
Okay, but they're not dominating like they were before.
I haven't seen anything dominate yet in this new season, but it's still too early to tell, probably. I'm only playing usually a couple deck building games at a time. I think it's interesting because there are cards that are bad. Like I was saying earlier, we could have probably put Tundra Fighters in our commons list from just like a base deck standpoint, but they're one of the best commons in deck building.
Yeah, it's crazy how that works.
You look more for unique abilities there than the raw power that you might see. And we generally think of econ play being the main way to play in stock, but deck building often opens up other strategies more so that different things can get the limelight. If you just kind of play a typical econ strategy against someone who's running a combo deck, it simply will not work. You have to play more aggressive against them and try to stop them before they get their combo off. I think that's good. Playstyles are more viable in deck building. You just kind of have to take a look at it and see what's there. But I recognize also this game's got 30 factions. That's a lot to learn. So you think, I don't want to have to learn deck building too. But the thing about it is play is less tight and less taxing and less brain burning because you're all just kind of playing around. Even the best deck building players are still learning too. So I think it's a different sort of environment and fun.
And I'll throw out that when James and I met up with some other people here in our local area, we just did a random deck build where it was picked 5 decks and we swapped all the cards between them and we all picked 1 card for each thing and passed it around.
Like a draft, yeah.
Oh, that's
without fun. Deck building at all, and very fun. If you play in person, would try. Just pick 2 random decks, mix them up, choose their cards at random. That's fun.
Who won?
We played just a couple games, but I won my game. I will say,
I was the only one that won 2 games, so I ended up taking the title, but we didn't have that much time to play. But I had like a Mountain Vargath build that used Law of Loyalty and a slip by. I think I might have had Law of Liberty in there too. I'm not sure, but like Law of Loyalty was actually pretty good with Sunderved. But that's not something that can go in normal deck building rules. But according to our like mock-up draft, we allowed it.
And I had my Spirit of the Phoenix Tord and Trample in and do 2 damage as it was traveling.
These are the bad cards that we have time for this podcast.
I hope people just, hearing this, maybe you won't change your opinion, but maybe you'll just think about trying to use them every once in a while more and finding some use for them. Especially these events and things in the comments. I think they have some good uses.
Maybe let us know if there's bad cards we that are even worse than what the ones we picked. So
tell us which cards are worse, and then we will see if you're right or wrong. We'll respond to that. And if you tell me Undead Archer is worse, we're gonna fight. Appreciate you guys coming on the podcast.
Thanks for having
Thanks,
us.
guys. Always good to be here.
This has been another episode of Discard for Magic, and we'll see you guys in a couple weeks.